Welcome back to another Montreal Canadian Weekly Recap with hockey coach Coach Frenchy directly from beautiful country of Thailand on an amazing great Sunday night, December
December.
3rd, 2023. And we have the co-host directly from Hawkesbury, our friend Marco Larabi. And we have somehow, and the caveman sits somewhere with his cat, Mr. Enortap. Both of you, welcome back in the house.
Cheers.
Welcome,
Cheers,
Hockey Nation. And hello, Coach. Hello, Marco. Another interesting
evening,
week, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Another night of talking about the Montreal Canadiens. Have another bad week. 1-1-1-1, 1-1-1-1-1-1 from Montreal Canadiens. We'll talk about Fontaine. And we're going to show, honestly, what we have on the program already, Mr. Enortap and Mr. Marco. And the subject tonight is the beginning of the sinking. Martin Saint-Louis need help, ladies and gentlemen, and he requests that from his general manager can use. We're going to talk a bit more about what kind of help he's looking for. And then if you follow my channel, we have another logo week of the hockey quiz. 10 new. This was all the team. They are not play anymore. The fun team logo. Very interesting. Someone, right? I don't know. Someone got 5. I cannot know who it was. And then finally, tonight, if you follow my other channel, we had Thailand live stream with Coach Frenchy in Thailand. It was done at 7 o'clock, a bit earlier. But tonight, talk about the Montreal Canadiens. We welcome everybody in the chat. Thanks to be with our Canadian show. We have a lot of people. Knock the door. Don't forget to click on the likes already. We have RDP is in the hall. Roy knocked the door. Following by Léon Renault. Habs Nation, Alan Vaillancourt is with us tonight. Jake McEnway, following by Sébastien. And then we have Luke, Go Habs Go, is in the house tonight. Ron McDonald is in the house tonight. Thanks to be with our Canadian show. Gary Cournoyer is in the house tonight from Montreal. RG Calabro with all the updates. 5 game in NHL already, 2 game over. The Wild for the 3rd straight W with the new head coach John Hines win against Chicago Blackhawks 4-1. The Rangers took everything 6-5 against Jose Sharks and Jose come back with 2 goals. And the Boston Bruins start the 3rd period with a deficit of 1-0. They are winning right now 2-1. Nashville 2-1 over the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah.
And the Colorado lead 1-0. Thanks so much, RJ, for all the information. Right, Claude Richard. Well, here we go. Our boat is sinking right now because we have the too much big one over there. About that one over there. I don't know why they do that to me. But we'll see what happening. Let me check in on this one over there. I don't know why they do that. Here we go. Is it better? A bit better. That one over there. Here we go. LA, injury hurt. LDP, New Hook, injury hurt. Lucien Casino, FDP, I lost this one. I'll be sure. We got everybody in the house. Don't forget, guys, click on the likes. That'd be awesome. We appreciate a lot to be a part of the show. Marco and Mr. Enortap, thanks to join me on another week number 9, I believe, of the Montreal Canadiens. They play 4 games next week. We're going to talk about this a bit later. But tonight, at the beginning of the show, Marco, what we do?
We like to do headlines first, if I'm not mistaken, Coach.
The headlines, you still now target at the right spot, Mr. Marco, about that. And the first one to talk about is yours. We always do that. He go with the 80-20 league. Very interesting subject to talk about. Boston Bruins just scored 3-1.
Yeah. Well, this is an oldie but a goodie by Martin Saint-Louis. This is something that I've heard. I heard him say this when he was a player, and I heard him talk about this when he first came on as coach of the Montreal Canadiens. So for those of you who are not familiar with this concept, basically the concept that Martin Saint-Louis has talked about in the past is that it's impossible for a team or even a player to play at 100% maximum effort and efficiency and execution all the time. So what you're aiming to do is to play 80% of the time or 80% of your total energy consistently so that, you're leaving a little bit in the tank. Now, there might be, say, like a rivalry game. Let's say you're playing Montreal and Toronto on a Saturday night. maybe that night you're at 100%, right? But then you don't want to go to say 50% when you're playing Columbus on a Tuesday night. The idea is to try to stay consistent and play at 80% of your energy, efficiency, and everything else. So I wanted to bring this back up because I wish that St. Louis would keep this a consistent message with this team, because like we've talked about over the last several weeks, we've seen the standard in which this team can play. Like, I know there's been a couple more injuries, which is going to affect a couple of things. But we've seen the standard at which this team can play. We've seen them play well. We've seen them play the right way, play tight against really good teams. And then we've seen them play the other way. So at this point in the season, Coach, they're still really, really, and I think St. Louis talked about this as one of the biggest challenges right now for Montreal, is they're chasing consistency. That's what Montreal is chasing right now. We're seeing periods where they're playing well, and then we're seeing beginnings of games where they're just not there at all. So this is part of the process, guys. I know everybody's sick of hearing us talk about the process, but that's what really it is at this point, right? Is chasing consistency. So what I invite everybody to do when you're watching the games, so you don't get frustrated, is, you're not going to have players playing at 100% effort, 100% all the time. But if they can stay at that, if they can find that 80-20 or even 70-30, that's kind of what they're striving for. I just wanted to bring that back into the forefront. I wish it's something that St. Louis would talk about more often. And I'm hoping it's something that he talks to key players like Suzuki and Caulfield and Gooley and Matheson, like players that are really kind of shouldering a lot of the load for the team. That's kind of what they need to get to, is that 80-20. So just a very interesting concept, and something that I thought I would want to talk about with everyone.
Well done. Well said about that. We're going to move on to Mr. Enortap. Enortap, I got for you, Mr. Success, Mr. Enortap.
Success, depending on how you spell it. Well, I mean, I came up with the rebuild success. I know we've heard it ad nauseum over the last few weeks, but I think it's important to reiterate, and really it stems from even sometimes when you're doing the games, Coach, and a lot of times we're in the chat and we're exchanging comments. It's necessary. I know I've said patience is essential here, and not everything is going to go right all the time. If it did, we'd be Stanley Cup champions if that were the case. But what we need to do is to gauge the process along the way and make sure that things are developing as we go. What do I mean by that? Well, if you look at where we were last year at this time and where we are right now, I still think we're in a developing process. If you look at the points, we had more points last year. We were in a slightly better predicament than we are in right now. That does not mean that we're experiencing failure here. I think it's gauging who you have on your team, what core to build around. All right, and I think that's one of the essential things that you have to look at. And I did a little bit more digging here, and I read a lot about. I believe it was his name is Cam Lawrence. He's affiliated with the Tampa Bay Lightning organization in some fashion, and now I believe he's a blogger. And what he's done is, over the last 10 years, he's taken the four finalists. The four teams that are in the finals and are looking at exactly what patterns are there among these teams. And he looked at what is called the war on ice, which is the wins above replacement. And it's really interesting because he basically said that you have to have on your team, to be a contender, you have to have one player that's worth three or four wins for you. That is, by the end of the year, this person single-handedly won those games for you. You have to have about 2 or 3 players that'll win about 2.5 games for you. And this goes towards building that core that we were talking about before, which I don't think we're quite at yet. And it'll take some time. And that's why we can't get frustrated in the process. And then you have to have a bunch of complementary players surrounding that. So given today's salary cap situation, the reason why it's important to have that core is because you have to identify for yourself which pieces are going to remain on the bus for you and sort of drive the bus, and which ones are passengers and players that you can afford to sort of bring in and out of your organization, players that you can find sometimes on the cheap but can do a certain role or fill in a certain position. And if you think back to, the success, just as an example, think back to the success of the Chicago Blackhawks when they won their 3 Stanley Cups. At the heart of it all, you had players like they identified their core as Tays, they had Kane, Hossa, Sharp, Duncan Keith, Seabrook, yeah, and even to a lesser degree, even Niemi and Crawford sort of contributed to that, and everybody else were moving pieces year in and year out because of the salary cap, unfortunately. But those key players always remained within the organization and were able to, like I said before, drive the bus in this case. I don't think Montreal is quite there yet, and that's why we say it takes time to try to achieve that. Now, what this guy Cam Lawrence found out was that he identified 8 things that you have to have, and I'll just bear with me. I jotted them down here. Okay, number 1, he said the most important thing you have to have is the number 1 centerman. You don't have a number 1 centerman, and that's not part of your core. You have to keep looking. And if you think of what's happened in the last, I'd say 9 to 10 years with Montreal, isn't that the one thing that they've been searching for quite about a while? Now, some might say Suzuki is that person, and time will tell. But I don't believe yet we have that number 1 center. Maybe Doc might turn out to be that. But again, we'll have to wait and see. Number 2, he identified your number 1 center needs a wingman that can score. Okay, I think we can check that box off, even though some would say, well, he's not having a great year this year. I think Caulfield can fill those shoes. Number 3, you definitely need an elite number 1 defenseman, but don't stress too much about who their number 2 guy is on the team. You have to have a core there as well, but you need that one quarterback that can play on specialty teams, that can drive the play, can skate, can stick handle, can score when needed, and is on that level. And again, as you're going through this, think of the teams that have won the cup or have been in the finals, and you'll see that they check off all these main points here. Number 4, he says he doesn't have to be elite, but you usually need a strong second line center as well. Now, ideally, you would like to have 3 strong centermen right up the middle, but I think that's a luxury that most teams don't have. You can probably count it on maybe 2 or 3 fingers how many teams actually have that. But you need that second, like when Colorado won, for example, Kadri was having one of his best years as the number 2 centerman on that team. Number 5, goaltending doesn't matter as much as we make it out to be. So in other words, and we've discussed this in the past before, you don't necessarily need an elite goalie. Again, it's a luxury if you do, and that person can steal games for you, which is great. But you need somebody that's very competent, that can stop the puck and at least keep the team afloat while they get their gears in action. Number 6, the average contender the average contender has 4 elite players and at least 1 other very good player. Now, the way he defined elite is probably a little bit different than what we've discussed in the past. It's basically a player that fits the 20th percentile in the NHL. So you can make what you will of that. Number 7, a solid core is more important than depth, but depth is more important than any one player. And number 8, what separates the champions from what may be next year's are the centers and the depth, and finally the goaltending, rather than just building from the goaltending out, which was a philosophy that was abided by many teams for many years. But again, you can agree, disagree with this. I just thought I did this reading. I found it very interesting. I thought I'd throw it out there tonight and just say, you know what, this is going to take time. Don't expect Montreal to be completing this in 5 years. I think it'll be very difficult to get to that stage. And at the core of everything, like anything in life, gentlemen, is you got to have the luck as well. You could be doing all the right things, and look at what's happening this year yet again for the third year in a row. Is we're suffering injuries. You can draft, and you can draft the number one pick and make the wrong pick for whatever reason. So you might make the right pick, but just never pans out. Doesn't happen often, but that's part of it. So you can go on the free agency and pick up a player, comes to your team, doesn't produce for whatever reasons. So the luck element is always a part of that equation, and it could set you back. But the core, at least, was interesting from what I read there.
Marco?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so interesting. I think I'm familiar with that structure, with that concept in Enortap, but
Yeah.
if your objective was to try to make some of our some of our fans feel better, I don't think that will be the case. Being 5 years away, from building something that's going to be competitive, I don't think that that's really kind of what Hugo has in mind here. Like, if you listen to, so Hughes just gave another interview when they were doing the Montembeault contract, and you could see, like, for the first time, he didn't move away from using the term rebuild, but he actually said retool. So I think, we've talked about this before, that I think, we've already seen this, right? Like, they have moved picks to get younger, like a Doc and a New Hook and things like that, right? So, I don't know if really Montreal, like, it's one thing to ask a market like this to do a rebuild and have a couple of years of patience, but I don't suspect that the fan base is going to allow for 5 years of kind of like finishing in the bottom 10 of the league. Like, I think, maybe you have another year or two of not making the playoffs where the fan base will understand. But I think we've talked openly, guys, that in the year for the season 25-26 is where we think they'll probably target a free agent to really come in and speed things up a little bit. I'm sure kind of what Detroit did this summer might fuel that even more. Maybe the ownership will, kind of talk with the management team and say, hey, like, look what Detroit is doing. Like, they're able to, if Detroit makes the playoffs, wins a round, then there might be pressure for Montreal to kind of accelerate things a little bit. But I don't disagree. There is a lot of luck, as we know. Like, we finished, we drafted first overall 1 year too early. There's nothing you can do about that. That's just luck of the draw in terms of how those things play out. So listen, like we learned with Vegas last year, there's not just one prototype to win anymore. Like, you look at other teams, it's a mix. If you look at Vegas's first line, it's a mix, of trades, or it's mostly trades, right? And even if you look at Montreal's first line right now, arguably, so Suzuki was a trade, Caulfield was a draft pick, and then whoever you had on the Monahan you could call him a free agent that they signed yesterday, right? So there's different ways to do it, but I get it. Like, right now there are elite pieces missing, but I don't think there's more than one way to skin a cat. So I buy into what you're saying a little bit, but I think there's other ways to win.
Yeah, and again, Marco, this wasn't necessarily my reflection. It was more something I read and found interesting, and I thought I'd bring it up. More so to answer the earlier question, not to make the chat feel more optimistic, and my intention is not to make them feel totally depressed. I think the answer lies somewhere in between. But what I find difficult sometimes to swallow is, when games are going on and we're all in the chat together, and I hear some of the comments being made, and they're either very unrealistic, or um, they're constantly negative. And I'm not saying you have to have your color rose glasses on and always say positive things about the Habs. I think it's important to be analytical and critical when the time is there, but you have to look at also some of the positives that are coming out of that. Like after that first period against Detroit, you would have thought this was World War III and that this team was doomed for life, and where are we
It was a
going?
terrible
And
period.
then we
It
and
was
and it was
terrible.
a bad period, but it was a bad period, no doubt about that. But you even talked about the 80-20. I mean, maybe that was the 20, and the 80 came second and third period, which I thought they outplayed and outskated Detroit. And I thought that even though Allen didn't have one of his greatest nights, he made some key saves when he had to, when they were down 4-2, that at least allowed him to get that extra point. And it's just a matter of, I think as fans sometimes we get caught up in the hysteria of it all, and when they're winning, we're evaluating them to be much better than what they're supposed to be, and when they're losing, they're the worst thing that's out there. And I think we have to be a little bit more realistic in terms of those expectations.
Yeah, like I think like often, so one other thing that you have to kind of think of too, Intertap and Coach, is you often hear the term rebuild, right? To me, rebuild is really when you start to build. You could argue that Montreal is still not even at the building stage. They're still at the asset
You could.
collection stage, right? So like you could say that it's a very different, like if you go to a community where Leafs fans are chatting or Oilers fans are chatting, it's a very different conversation than what we're having here, right? Here we
True.
we're mostly focused on kind of evaluating younger players that are just starting out and everything else, while their conversations are like, this guy is not fitting the role that we need to do to win, right? So I think right now, and we've talked about this, like Montreal has so many assets. You could argue that they don't have enough elite assets, but they have a lot of assets, and they have more to come, more picks and everything else. So really, we're not at the stage where you're really building a team yet. And that's really, when you get into the kind of conversation that you're having, Intertap, of okay, what are the pieces that you need to build a winning team? We're not in the roster construction phase of this yet, right? It's still collecting
Yeah, you're
assets,
right.
so
You're right.
from that perspective, that that tells you where we are in the process, and where fans should recognize where we are in that process. So it's still, there's a lot of cool things about being in the asset collection phase, because you're evaluating all the assets and you're looking how potentially they'll fit together in the future. And it's kind of it's like a dreamer phase. You're kind of trying to envision how this piece, like we're all looking at Lane Hudson. Nobody's seen Lane Hudson play in the NHL yet, but we're all dreaming, imagining how he's going to be a piece in the roster construction eventually. But
And
we
the
don't know how
NHL.
that's going to work out. We don't know yet, right? So
No.
we're still in the asset collection phase. Coach, would you agree? We're not really at that stage yet.
Well, I'm just read the comments. I'm just shake my head. I just shake.
No,
I don't know if I should
yeah,
talk or not because I think we are. I'm completely on the direction with that. But yeah, you never know what happened, right? You can have a player like Lane Hudson. You never know what will be the expectation. Remember at the beginning in February 2022, they said we don't draft the kid at 18 years old. We draft a player for what they're going to become. We hope they will become at 22, 23. And it's the same way with Lane Hudson. We hope he's going to be that player at 22, 23, what we expect, but you have a long way to get there. We have a lot of pieces of the puzzle, Marco and Artap, and on the table. The problem, they are not all together. And sometimes those pieces of puzzle does not fit right away. You have to figure out, you have to search, you have to look left and right, up and down in the corner. You try, it does not work. This is how you will rebuild a team, in my opinion. And sometimes you have to turn the piece on the table because you need another players. You always expect that players. For me, for what I read for the last 10, 15 minutes in that chat, you guys, you're not really sick about your Montreal Canadiens. That's simple. That's simple.
Yeah.
You could be again me. You can be different of my opinion, but Montreal Canadiens are at the bottom 10 in NHL standing at the end of the year. They don't have enough of players. Put on the paper the lineup at Tampa Bay Lightning, and you tell me tonight that we are at the same level as Tampa Bay Lightning. Uh, hello, hello. Do we have a Kucherov on their team? Right there. Right there. Only one player. Do we have Kucherov on her team right now? No. Do we have a Vasilevsky on her team? We have Jake Allen and Samuel Montembeau and Kaden Primo. We don't have anything like that. Do we have a one close at Victor Edmond right there? We don't have. Now you said, tell me that Montreal Canadiens lineup we have right now is compared to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I would view it that way. Like again, like you can say that there's like look at Seattle last year, right? Like they don't have any of those players either. But sometimes you just have teams play the right. Like you could even say Boston is missing a lot of those key players, right? Like they don't really have an elite center right now, and they're one of the
Well, you have
best teams in
quality
hockey.
player. You have Marchand. You have
Yeah,
Pasnak at 50 goals
for
per
sure.
year. We have a
They have
McEnroy.
two goalies.
They have the
They have
goaltender.
good.
Yeah, like
They
I
have two.
listen.
They
I'm
have
not saying
some
they don't
depth.
have good
They have
players.
Carlo.
I'm not saying
They,
they don't have good players, but all I'm saying is that sometimes an average team can still be play so well together that they
oh, you
find a
said
way
the
to win.
words, Marco. Average team,
Yes,
right? Average
yes,
team for me is a team between 12 to 24. We're
Mhm.
not there yet.
Yeah,
We're
No,
not there
not
yet.
yet. Not yet. No.
That's the point of that. We're not there yet. Now you can get a bottom 10 league. You can try to get a little bit higher. But at the end of the day, Marco, with a long season we have, at some point they're going to go down. The injuries make an impact about that. That's the problem with that part of it. For me, it's not really sick. It's the thing rebuilding, and we have to accept that. The organization go to one way, and the fans don't follow the team. They go to another way. They want success for the Montreal Canadiens. They are rebuilding. They told you in October 2023 at the golf tournament, we don't want to hear the word P. P is for playoff because they are really sick and their plan. They know they are not there yet. You gave a lot of great suggestions, Marco and Enortap, about what they at for what they need to do for the upcoming
Yeah.
couple of months in front of them,
Is
what
that-
they need to increasing the development, the progression, whatever to become a bit more successful. But they are not there
but
to get
guys,
there. So
see what I
anyhow,
read.
go ahead.
What I read that most fans, the things that I see fans are frustrated about. They're frustrated about the picks that have been made, right? So you got a lot of people that are frustrated about did they miss an opportunity, Slavkowski versus Cooley or Mitchkov versus Ryan. So there's a lot of frustration there. There's a lot of frustration that you can see necessarily about the consistency of certain players, right? I don't see a lot of people saying, "Hey, I can't believe Montreal hasn't won 5 in a row and are not like in the third place in the division." So I can like I so I can
Uh,
I
I've seen that, Marco. I've seen that.
really I
And I
maybe
think
like
you've seen it as
that's not
well.
the majority, but that's not the majority though. Like I would be surprised if
No,
that's the
no.
majority of fans. Like again, I've been pretty open. Like I get the things that I get frustrated on is the progress of certain players or how like one thing that we were all critical about yesterday is the line combinations, right? The utilization of Slavkowski. That you can understand why fans would be frustrated with that, right? Because Slavkowski had been one of the best players, and then for whatever reason he ended up playing with Pearson and with Evans last night, right? So
Yeah.
that's a bit of a noodle scratcher. So those are legitimate things that fans have a right to, I don't think it's irrational for people to question things like that. Like the bench management things that we see and things like that. So I think there's a fine line between, you know, it's all part of the process, and you have a right as a fan to question certain things and give your opinion about some of the decisions that are being made and everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have completely irrational and unrealistic expectations, then that's a totally different thing.
I think you said the right word, the realistic
Irrational.
expectation about that one there. And a rebuilding map or template, Marco and Enortap, are not going to be the same for each team. Last night I was talking with Roy, and then I started to say, oh no, I did the video of Leo Carlson, goal and
Yeah.
overtime, and shootout, right?
Yeah,
And
amazing.
imagine if Montreal select Leo Carlson 2 years ago, that kind of players like that. What we are in the rebuilding versus what we have with Sarkozy example. And
And
just
by
give
the
you an
way,
example. I will give you another one. They finished fifth last year. Imagine if they select 1 to 4. What kind of player they going to get over Rebecca? We don't know the future, but I feel like Montreal Canadiens, because they are unlucky to get the right players at the higher level talent skill, they will push back the rebuilding, or they will
Yeah.
have to work
That's a valid
harder,
point.
Marco and Enortap, to develop better their players, because they don't have a Fantilli, they don't have a Bedard, they don't have a Carlson. We'll see what Will Smith will look like. He looked great. It's minimized or is maximized, or they minimize their mistake after that in Artap and Marco. It'll be harder for them. They cannot miss one pick, because if they miss that pick, it will be hard to rebuild right away after that. The trade is complicated more. So those situations, that's live, right? You get it or you don't get it. Montreal did not get it. Unfortunately, they finished first pick overall at the wrong year, but they have to survive about that. It's a challenge, and I never see they have to move on with that part over there, and that's what they have to figure out. That's the time to rebuild. For me, the rebuild now for Montreal push back 1 or 2 years, because they don't get the right NHL draft pick, higher level quality. That's the reality behind that. So it's a minimum 5 years, and with Montreal Canadiens. That's no doubt in my mind about that before they become a solid team. And when you rebuild, Marco and Enortap, you know hockey better at me. You know they have to remove all the bad contract around. This is year
Well,
number 2,
that's
right? And they
that's
go.
where.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add that that's what Marco was alluding to. I don't think we're quite at the building stage yet, because we're still trying to clear out some of the bad contracts, and that just takes time. It's not like they don't know what to do. They know exactly what to do, but unfortunately, there's 31 other teams that are not just going to accept bad contracts from you and
The,
give you a mullet that way to get out of your failures and get onto that rebuilding process. So that's what pushes you behind. The fact that sometimes you get unlucky with your picks, and again, it's hard to quantify. Like right now, it's easy to say, well, yeah, Carlson's going to be a much better player than Fantilli or anybody else that's on Montreal's team right now. But you don't know. You don't know. Down the road, things can happen, and you have to just make sure you develop them as best as you can.
yeah,
I
absolutely
don't know,
about that.
guys. Like,
I will finish with my headline if you don't mind.
yeah, yeah. And our top
Sorry,
still 2 minutes again for delay of game with your headline again.
but I got everybody going, so that's it. That's the important thing.
It's enough. So Martin Bose just said to Jake Allen, it's enough. That's it. That's all. I'm tired of that one over there. It's enough to carry on 3 goaltender right now for the Montreal Canadiens, because that hurt many area of the game. All right. And I think Patrick stopped this during the weekend. I was agree with him about that one over there. He was said, when a goaltender is hot, usually you send him back in the game, the next game, everything like that. To have a rotation like that, I think a long term it will hurt more the Montreal Canadiens, because it's Montembeau, Primo, Allen. Montembeau, Primo, Allen. They don't look about who they play again. They just write the rotation, everything like that. So you have a great performer goaltender, but you have to sit for 2 more games. And you maybe wait for 7 more days. And I think a long term, a short term, it could hang in there. But long term, that's not the right things to do. My second thing behind that is enough. It's because Jean-François Hull is completely, I don't know if you watched him last night, but he became bald. He lost all his hair right now. Yeah, no goaltender anymore. Tobes get removed for the fourth time after the 7 minute last night, gave 3 goals. At some point, Tobes is going to be in the East Coast Hockey League. And you have to go with a man. It's called Last Man. His last name is Man, a short goaltender right now. They hurt the Laval Rocket at the same time. And this is not a good news for the Montreal Canadiens organization with that situation. So they hurt the top, and now they hurt at the bottom, the prospect over there. And it's a weird, it's a snowball right now. Laval cannot win any game. And you said, why does not work? Because they have no foundation goaltender over there. I don't say Primo will save the situation, but goaltender Marco Enortap at Laval, at least more experience, whatever it is. You have it could be Picard, it could be Tomenk, it could be any other goaltender have experience in the American cricket that we have. They need help. And Tobes now he lost his confidence because now you can see he struggled every game. So I think that's enough right now. They have to figure out about that. And that would bring me by it's enough. I think Montreal Canadiens would the play of Jaden Strobel. Anderson is not ready yet, and I think Martin will protect him too much. He played 13 minutes, 1 minute, 10 minutes, 12, 14. But every time he play, we cannot say he does not have a really bad game or he does not belong at that moment in NHL. We know we love to see him a little bit more, 17 minutes, 18 minutes, but I think his performance are maybe pushing the Montreal Canadiens maybe to do a deal with maybe a defenseman on the left side right now. I don't know what could happen, but that's not, if I was other left defenseman now, I'd be a bit concerned about that. We know what we talk about. I know it'd be Jordan Harris, but we see what could happen about that. But it's enough for me as a rotation to go there. It's They have to figure out something. It does not help Montembeault. It does not help Jake Allen. It does not help Caden Primo. Primo Montembeault need to play more every 2 games, in my opinion. And if they want really to give the net at Montembeault for the next 3 years with his contract, it's not to put him on the bench and on the net every 3 games that will helping him to his development overall for Montembeault. So I don't know if you think I would like to hear a 1 minute each review. What you think about the rotation 3 goalies example, or what do you think they were happening?
I think for sure the fact that that Montembeault is now signed, it's not like something is going to happen imminently, but certainly it clears a path for something to happen, right? So I think that was the first domino that needed to fall for sure. Now the question is again, like with the cap and with the situation that we all know with the goalie market, it's very unlikely that Allen, I think, is going to be the one that's going to get moved. It's just very difficult for him I just don't see much of a fit for him out there, especially the way that he's played this year. Like if you just look at his numbers, again, there's no secrets in the NHL anymore. They can look at the tape, they'll see the same games that we have, they'll see the save percentage, they'll see the results. I don't see a team really kind of like betting on Allen that he can be a number one or even for a medium period of time. So for me, the more likely scenario here is you're going to have a team that's going to trade for Primo. So coach, I agree 100%. Like any move that would involve Primo, you expect it's going to bring back a moderate asset, like maybe like a 5th round pick or something, like a 4th round pick. But then what you're looking to get back is a number 3 goalie in the organization that can go to Laval and play some games, right? So you're looking for a moderate asset to come back in a Primo trade, and then somebody that you can bring back, go back to Laval, and if need be, that you can call up to be a capable backup in the NHL, so that you're not, really kind of putting the team at a disadvantage if need be. But I think that's kind of the more realistic thing. I know a lot of people think Jake Allen, is valued really high, or teams view him a certain way. He's a Stanley Cup winning goaltender. Well, guess what? He was the backup of a Stanley Cup winning team, right? So he wasn't really the starter or anything. So I don't think that Jake Allen, with the salary that he has, brings a lot of value. If you're thinking in your head, oh, Montreal will retain salary. Well, they don't have space right now to retain salary for this year. So they would only be able to retain salary for next year, if I'm not mistaken, for Jake Allen. So I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, you know what? It's something a subject, and after Marco, we can have a good feeling about. But Roy talked to me about this. I don't have no feeling about. I don't know what direction
Ooh,
right now. Well, I cannot read a little bit the mind of you, so the Montreal Canadiens with the I don't know. Do you feel that way? Where we don't have any direction, some things that you know what they will try to trade Primo, or they will try to trade Adam, or they will try to make a move that way. I don't know. Do you feel that we is statical or we don't go nowhere with that? Do you feel that way?
No,
We
I
have
don't get that.
you have the feeling they want to go that way.
I don't have a feeling. I think again, I think they were waiting for the Montembeau contract to be signed. I think that's for sure what had to happen now. He's not going to. I think in his press conference, he was clear. He's like, we're not going to tell what our strategy is to the 31 other teams. But I don't think you don't have to be a mind reader, coach. Just look at the marketplace. Look at how much Jake Allen makes. Look at how he's performing. What team is going to take on 3.8 million? So you can try to guess what Hughes's mind frame, what his mind, where what the strategy is, but he's limited by reality and by the asset that he has too, right?
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. People in the
I
chat, Mr. Nartap, I have this question. People talk about this. If they waive Primo or they waive Allen, my question to you
They're not
is,
gonna wait.
if
they're
They're
not
not
going to
going
no,
waive out.
if they waive one of them, who
Yeah,
is going to get picked, or maybe no one will be picked. Claim.
personally, I don't think Primo gets picked if he goes through waivers. I think that that's one of the permutations that they're probably exploring. Um, had it been earlier when he had been playing much better, that could have been a possibility. But I don't think it's going to be the case right now. And I kind of feel like, yeah, if you're looking at Allen to be your number one on another team, I agree with you, Marco. I don't think that's going to fill the bill for most teams. But I think what a lot of teams are looking for is that very competent number two goalie right now. And think of the teams like Tampa Bay, for example. If Vasilevsky gets hurt again, what do they have as their backup? There's not much there.
They
Look
just
at
had.
what's Carolina. Look at what's
I
happened
think
with Carolina. Anderson gone the year. Ranta been on and off with injuries, and they've been suffering because of it. So if you can put somebody in place as your number two goalie, now you can bring up the money, and I think that that's legitimate in terms of picking up the cost for Allen. So yeah, I know Hughes doesn't like to retain money, but if the deal is right and you get a decent return for that, then you might be willing to put in that money to help retain and get this expedited. But I don't think Allen goes on waivers. If anything, it'll be Primo.
but like
Awesome.
you can't retain Allen's salary only for next year, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
you so any team that's going to be taking Allen for this year would have to take on the full salary. So
yeah. But
and
it also be retro. It's like when it happens at trade deadline time. I mean, they're paying for approximately a quarter or a fifth of what
yeah, but
their salary
it's not the
for the
salary.
years.
It's not the salary. It's not the salary itself. It's the cap hit. That's the problem, right?
Right, but some
That's
teams will have that. Like if you take back a bad contract, because right now between price money and all the players that are on the IR, I mean, we have that space to take a bad contract, especially if it's not a long contract, and then you can expedite something like that.
maybe. So I don't see that many teams looking for a strong number two goalie. Like I think Tampa, they're actually kind of happy with the what's the name of their guy, Johansson? Who's the guy
Yeah,
that
yeah. Well,
Johansson?
a team like Los Angeles King would be appreciated to have a backup goaltender number two, I believe. I think
That
that would
has
be the team I
experience.
would be a little bit, you know,
Colorado,
uh,
Dallas.
you know, I don't think so. Dallas will be good that direction, but I think the fact Marco, the Kings don't have a really a solid number one goaltender like Ottinger example or Halibut over there. I think they would be like if that butt fall, uh, maybe more confident to get with a solid, experienced goaltender. I think Jake Allen over there will be good for them over Copley. But the problem will be the salary cap at 3.8. But it
I
will be
think I would
interesting
look
what's going to
elsewhere.
happen. It's just my question about the goaltender. Guys, going to have a lot of. We crossed 50 minutes and we don't talk about one subject yet or about the fact we did only the highlight. This is the highest, the longest highlights in the history of the Habs Nation. Nothing will be happening about that one over there.
My
And
headline
a lot
was
of
my
conversation in the
headline was
chat, a lot of action in the chat. I like it. I like it. We have a lot of people, not a lot of people, but you have a lot of people pop up, and we welcome you guys. Welcome to the show. Don't forget, please, to click on the likes. A lot of you guys have a really good statement in the post in the chat. We appreciate it. Randy Walkman, Patrick Leblanc, Alan Verco, Robert pop up, Willie Snyder. I looked up Austin was there also, and many others, guys. Thanks to be with our Canadian show. We appreciate that. The next thing I want to talk about this is, try to get the highlights right now. They played a game last night. I don't know. Maybe we not remember that one. They lost by the score 5-4. We're going to try to limit on the time. We have about like 20 subjects to talk about this night. So, and 2 minutes. Give me a little bit what you think overall in after about this game, and then Marco pick it up what Marco maybe and after not talk about, and then I was resume the game about that if you don't mind.
Well, again, I'll be brief because I think we talked about it a little bit earlier yesterday. I mean, the first period they didn't come out to play. It was just plain and simple. And couple it with the fact that I think there was one goal that Allen allowed that was a bit questionable, and they put him behind the eight ball right away. But I give him credit because at least the second and third period they came out, they were skating much better. I thought they took the play to Detroit. Now you could argue maybe Detroit was laying back a bit and playing more of a defensive structure, protecting the lead. That would be valid, but at the end of the day, it's you converting your opportunities into goals, and I think that's what they did. And unfortunately, it ended very early in the overtime. It would have been nice to see it go for 3 or 4 minutes with an exchange of possession both ways. And for the third, well, not for the third straight time, but again, I would say for about the 80th percent time this season, one aspect that I've been looking at very closely is puck possession, and that comes from winning the faceoffs. And yet again, yesterday we dominated there, 57% to 43. So keep that going. I like that part of it, and they came out with a point.
That's definitely glowing compared to kind of my take on last night. Like, to make it very brief, to me, it's the same themes that we've seen over the last little while. So really costly turnovers, really, really bad, kind of errors in the defensive zone a couple times. Bad reads, like we saw the Josh Anderson not covering for Justin Barron on the power play. Monahan misreading on the first goal on the man-on-man coverage, things like that. Like the shorthanded goal, Anderson not stopping at the net, coach, like you said. So bad turnovers, bad D zone coverage. We missed on a 5-on-3 opportunity, so power play again. That's been a really a big one as well. Is special teams
That's
really
valid.
not. So they did score a power play goal, but even St. Louis wasn't really that impressed with it. It's kind of lucky. Like they almost cleared the puck, but then it just jumped over the Detroit player stick, and Suzuki. It was an individual play. It wasn't really an effort or result of a good power play, a scheme or anything. It was just a good shot, right? So still lots of work to do on the power play. So you know what, I don't know if we're going to talk about the Florida game, coach, but again, like that's why results sometimes are very misleading. Like in this game here, it looks like Montreal, hey, they played a better game than versus Florida. They lost 5-1 against Florida. So on paper, you're like, oh my God, like great improvement for Montreal. They got it to overtime. But to me, like if you actually look at the games, watch the games carefully and analytically, I think I liked Montreal's game better in Florida than I liked their game in Detroit. I think they played very two strong periods in Florida. They're right there with one of the best teams in the league. But then Primo just, he let in a couple of bad goals and the team was completely deflated. and that completely
Yeah,
cut their legs.
4 of those
Right,
goals
so
on the glove side. You're right. Like once they gave up that early goal in the third period, it was like it deflated them completely, and,
yeah.
they were out of that
So to
Florida
me,
game. But it's
to me,
harder to fight back, Marco. That I
it
think.
is like you're completely demoralized, right? So, but it's just that's why hockey is so weird, because results can be so misleading. So don't get fooled by the results. I think Montreal had a very strong third period in Detroit, but overall, if you look at the game, if you look at the analytics, look at the underlying numbers, and even the eye test, I think they played a stronger game in Florida, even though they lost 5-1 than they played last night in Detroit. Hockey is just weird that way, gentlemen.
Great point, both of you. I would say to you, a game is 60 minutes. And until they don't, and the reason they don't play 60 minutes because they are a fragile team with a lack of talent skill at the end of the day, right? And since the beginning of the season, every time they face to the forecheck two players against them, they have a difficult time to adapt and to adjust. It took about another half of the game before they become who they are, and that would be hard. The last couple of games, I said to you, most of the game, goaltender gave a bad goal, and they hammered the head of the players at the. For me, I would say to you, they come back. They can become, they believe in themselves at some point when they know the game they play at the level of the game they have. Yesterday, for me, was not a skilled talent team. It was more a mistake. It was more awareness mistake yesterday. Martin Smith talk about the risk management all the time, Marco. The risk
Yeah.
management happening with Justin Barron example. The puck in front of Jake Allen, he lost the track of the puck in front of him. It's happened, goaltender, no problem with that part. But we have three other players around Jake Allen could take the puck. But no,
That's right.
Anderson go in the row number 17 and the red seat and behind the net. I have no clue why he was looking for popcorn. I don't know what's going on at the goal line. And then after that, I think it was Barron Sakoski tried to get a puck behind. It was not work after that. So awareness was the biggest problem. But the key of that, and I thought at some point was not be that keep. I thought that 5 versus 3, it wouldn't be an impact at the game because I think Montreal will never come back, and they come back. The 5 versus 3 guys. Well, this was the worst power play 5 versus 3 I never see in hockey.
Terrible. Yeah,
It was
it's really
very
bad.
predictable. Very predictable. Everything they were doing. Very
Not there.
predictable.
You want to see again? You want to watch this? Let's see that
No,
one there.
please, no.
All right. I'm telling you right now. You cannot. I don't know which level in hockey, but it was painful to watch when you watch again that one there. I just want to show to you really quickly about that one over there. This is the win up over there. All right. Now they set up the 5 versus 3. Right? Now they're outside the dot. If you want to play hockey at the 5 versus 3 guys, you have to be inside the dots. Look where they are. But it would be worse right there. Now they said that Suzuki go out of the play. But now about this. Now we become 3 players, guys, at the goal line. We play a formation 2 versus 3, a 5 versus 3. And look, the Detroit are laughing. They threw a triangle from 1-2. Usually, many teams would play 2-1. And they play that because Montreal gave nothing to the Detroit to be worried about that. Look, 3 players right now on the one side. Caulfield, Suzuki is out at the blue line. And Madison is going to turn to the wall. Then look what's going on. Caulfield is going to do. Great there. Then we're going to move up. Now they shut the side. Caulfield, Suzuki, and the side were there. But look, Suzuki is out of the dot. Gallagher right now, he take a coffee with the goalie. And now he passed to one end. So, all right, we set up there. But look again. Look, Suzuki, where is he? With 3 players at the goal line. Are you killing me? You have no rebound in front of the net. You're going to see my descent is going to drop the subject about that. But
Please stop. That was terrible. So, Coach, very interesting. So, after watching this game, immediately I've been watching a lot of Vancouver and a lot of other teams. And what I've been finding, what I find shocking, if you look at Vancouver's power play or any other good power play, especially on a 5-on-3, they're like the defenseman and whoever is at the top of the zone is almost at the hash marks, right? Like they're so aggressive, right? Like Like I just can't believe how spread apart they are on a 5-on-3. Like you see how far caught. Like you nailed it, right? Like Suzuki, like he loves that play where he circles out of the zone and then takes that wrist shot. But like they're so spread apart. When you have a 5-on-3, the whole point is to compress the three players and like really kind of like
You
compress and add
collapse
pressure.
together. You try to modify the
Yes.
triangle to bring the guy, the two at the bottom, one at the top. But there was
Yeah.
no worry about the one timer for anyone. There was no worry
No.
about Caulfield one timer or Zuski.
No,
The
no.
problem power play for me is to not have a left winger at the top and put Zuski at the bottom with my own example. That would be the biggest problem for the Montreal Canadiens right now. But
Not
again,
even, but coach,
But
it's
it's
not even
also
tactical.
dropping.
It's not even just tactical, coach. At this point, it's mindset. Like they're so they're so conservative and so hesitant right now. It's like
yeah,
if you look at other, very conservative. So it's all about mindset. Like you look at these other power plays, it's almost kind of like a boa constrictor that slowly is like crushing the body of their prey, right? Like the power play, it starts off wide when you get the possession, but then it slowly starts to come in. And it's like the defensemen are almost at the hash marks. And you're slowly starting to contract the defense, like the defensive triangle, right? So I just find that they're too spread out. And they get stuck along the
And they're not
boards and they're not winning
and
those
they're not looking for the lanes, especially when you're 5-on-3. There's lots of lanes there that you can exploit. And so I'm going to throw this out at you now, both of you. Is it the system problem and hence coaching, or is it personnel problem?
I think it's, yeah, like personnel. It's got to be personnel, but also it's. I don't think it's coaching. Like tactics are not that different team to team, guys. It's at this point it's personnel and it's confidence, right? Like it's really just you get into these streaks and it's so it's maybe more of a mindset thing. Like I said, uh, there's just a lot of pressure, to and I think at this point, like, Matheson is not really a power play specialist, right? Like it's not like he's a good skater and like he has a decent wrist shot and everything else, but he's not a very creative player. He's not like you need somebody that's creative. And Martin Saint Louis said this in the press conference after is that every team has set plays, but good power plays, it's all about being creative and finding solutions once the team takes away your set play. There's the pro scouting in the NHL is not like it's better than it's ever been. All these set plays, all the teams know what you're going to do. So it's
Yeah,
all good power plays. It's all about problem solving and being creative, right? So
I th- I
unfortunately,
think it's
it's
both, Marco. I personally think it's both. I think that once we see these problems, okay, I agree that maybe we don't have the talent yet to where the players are creative enough to improvise on the go, and I think that that's something you need, especially when you're on the power play. But it's also when you see the same problem game in and game out on the power play, that to me also spells system and somebody
I
not
don't think
adjusting differently to the, like, if you show that same video, I mean, coach just showed it to us, we'd know how to adjust to it right away.
I don't think
Say
it's a
next
system.
game this is what you're doing.
I don't think
I
like
mean, nobody ever dropped below the goal line ever to
bottom,
create that bumper.
but bottom line, guys, is that at some point in a power play, somebody's going to have to beat somebody one on one, right? That's just how most kind of openings in a power play involve somebody making a creative play
yeah, but
to
Marco,
really
at 5 versus 3, you don't have to beat anyone. You have two players. You have +2 right there. I can
five
understand
on
you
three.
5-4. You try to create a hole and the defensive, right? You try to create chaos about that. But 5 versus 3,
Yeah,
I would be not agree with you about that one there
yeah.
because
Yeah,
you
Five.
don't have to beat anyone. You just need to
No, I
move the
agree.
puck, move quicker the puck back and forth. And honestly, you don't have to move. At the end of the day, you don't have to move. The only thing move is the puck and to
Mm,
open the space. Now, when you talk about this, I would say to find the hole inside the triangle after that. But you cannot bring three people at
yeah,
the goal line, Marco. You don't have to be a scientific in hockey to know about that. You don't have to be a coach in NHL to know that. But my point behind that, Marco, I said to you, is it's a boat. is the system Martin Saint Louis need to explain better at the player to do the right things. By the end of the day,
Agreed.
the player, if the one um, does does hockey right, there's the one to apply what he learned. But I don't think so. This was a telegraphic para Montreal Canadiens the think to play two top and three at the goal line.
I
Marco,
don't
you
think
have to
so.
crash the net at 5 versus 3. You have to find the hole and then crash the net. Go get that puck after that. How many shots we got? A Madison shot at the end with 2 seconds to go. We didn't send the video, but that could go. Caulfield tried to shoot the puck and he missed the net after that. They have only two attempts to show the puck. The rest, Ski
And you
go
shoot it.
outside the line, go after that at the goal line. You switch with Caulfield. They don't have no properly a great one-timer shot over there. You have to create chaos. You have to move the triangle, and they don't have to do that. And they don't have to move at 5 versus 3. Stay where you at. Move the puck. The Detroit are going to go like a zigzag. They're going to go up and down. They have to move until you get the use your two winger at the goal line to move the segment of the triangle. They don't have to go nowhere against Montreal. The 5-3. It was the worst 5-3 I never see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah,
I
you're
don't know.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right, Coach.
But
You have to tire out the defense and take advantage as soon as there's a miscue there.
but
Like
would
you
you
said, there
agree,
weren't
though,
any
that
shots.
But
There weren't
Marco,
any
you're absolutely
shots
right.
on
Now
net.
5 versus 4, Marco, you're absolutely right. You have to be the 1-1 on the
Creative.
side, on the
Yeah.
wall, whatever it is.
so you're right. You're right. That applies more to the 5-on-4, but even on a 5-on-3, guys, it's most likely that you have a set play. It's kind of like a face-off play, right? Like you have a play that you want to run, but then if you see that it's not there, even on a 5-on-3, it's going to come down to players making reads, right? And that's really kind of what it comes down to. And I just think for the most part, there's certain pieces that are just not like Matheson is not a power play guy. I don't think Gallagher is a power play guy. So really, you have like two players right now, and you could say Monahan
Anderson.
should
Anderson is not a
Anderson should be
power
there
play.
either. Well, yeah, I didn't even mention him because he wasn't on the first power play unit yesterday. They changed him
Yeah.
up for Gallagher. Right? Gallagher took his place. I still understand how Slavkovsky is not getting a shot, like on the first unit
The
power
next
play, but
subject.
yeah, okay. So, Coach, I don't know if you have the video from. Did you have the clip for the first goal against yesterday?
Not here, but I will tell you that. But
Okay.
just finishing that point, Marco, before you get there, at 5 versus 3, Marco, usually you move the puck. We move the puck from the top and the Madison, right? But the problem, if you want to beat a 5 versus 3 easy, move the puck at the goal line and go cross other side at the back door. And that's where you have to find the lane of what opponent team give to you. So you have to be smart. Like you said, you have to read and anticipate the play. But if you have no movement back from up and down and left and right, it's easy to the triangle for the opponent team to play against Montreal Canadiens. So for me, it was that part of there. But finish your point of view about the first goal of the game.
Yeah, like so. Yeah, listen, like we could dissect the 5-on-3, but again, like to me, you know how critical I've been of the kind of man-on-man coverage system that Montreal uses. I don't know if you have the clip there for the first goal against, but it's just a very, very typical, perfect, classic example of how the man-on-man coverage, how easy it is for it to break down. I don't know if you have it, but basically what happened is there was one guy that the Tampa guy, forget who it was, not Tampa, the Detroit guy went to the top of the zone, and that's typically when the man-on-man coverage breaks. Is when one of the forwards goes to the top of the zone at the point, right? So what happened is Gouli correctly read that was his guy based on that system. And he goes all the way up top, but then Monahan completely got lost and left somebody all at the front of the net, which I believe was is it Veleno that scored the first goal, I think. So Veleno's completely alone by the side of the net. So again, I know I've talked about this a lot, but they need to move to a hybrid system when it like just the man on man doesn't work when when the opposing team is sending somebody to the point and our defenseman is going all the way to the top to follow him. Almost every single time they get lost, completely lost, and somebody gets completely open. And I don't have the exact number, but it's costing them at least once a game. That play is costing a goal against almost every game that it's happening. It's crazy.
What's to happen? A lot of people in the chat. Thanks so much for all the conversation you carry on. The Habs Weekly Review last week, Montreal is 1-1-1, 10-11-3, and they are 6th in the standing in front of the Buffalo Sabres and the Ottawa Senators. Shocking. And they are 22nd right now in NHL and the standing. So that's what you got last week for the Montreal Canadiens. The record in November, they complete the month of November 5-9-0 last month. Overall, 1-5-0 at home. And then after that, it was like 4-4 on the road for the team. This is a tough one, guys, to tell you that. And I want you to give me agree or disagree. Cole Caulfield, player of the month, ladies and gentlemen, by the Montreal Canadiens during the month of November. I would like to hear from each one of you. Tell me what you think about Cole Caulfield.
Showing some improvement game in and game out. I thought he outplayed him. But I having said that, I did see, and Marco alluded to this in a previous show that we did. I did see that having moved him away from Caulfield, he is showing greater signs of being a little bit more creative and not just standing around. He is doing some things to improve, but I don't believe I would put him in the category of player of the month. No.
Marco?
Well, yeah. So I was disappointed that they put Suzuki back with Caulfield. I was liking Caulfield's game. I was loving to see that experiment. I did like that he was getting more touches. For me, Coach, I would, if you're going just on points, then I guess so. Montembeault would be a natural one, but he just didn't play enough games, right? But he should be there if he would have played more games. But if it was me choosing, I would probably say somebody like Caden Gooley. Caden Gooley for me had a really strong month. Yeah, a couple to me the decor is really, they keep the offense going. So even Matheson, you can say if you're looking at purely offensive numbers, I think Matheson had a pretty strong month as well. So I don't know, like I like Caulfield's play over the last 4 or 5 games when they had him with Slafkovsky and Dvorak. But I would lean more towards somebody like Caden Gooley, as the player of the month for November. Just the amount of minutes that he's playing, the quality minutes. He's a plus player, surprisingly, on a Montreal team. And that's the surprising thing, right? Like you look at some of the young defensemen on Montreal and, everybody's complaining, like Montreal's a really young decor and that's why things are going terribly. A lot of them are the only plus players on the team is, if I'm not mistaken, you got Caden Gooley that's a plus player. I think Kovacevic might even be a plus player. Like I haven't looked in a while.
Kovacevic has been playing well. I like what Struble has been showing. And of course, we're seeing that slightly talked about improvement with Barron. Like he's getting involved offensively. I mean, defensively, he's still making some blunders, but I think he's improved quite a bit.
Yeah. On the flip side, I want to let you know this is very important. I think I think Patrick Leblanc he nailed it. They gave this based on the end of the game a 3-star system.
Yeah.
So yeah.
To me, it's probably going to be Caulfield if that's how it's based. But I think Montembeault probably was the first star of the 2 games that he played too, right? So it might be a close call.
Yeah, sorry about that. I think Montembeault is one of them. Madison have 11 points that month on the 14. 3 goals, 8 assists. Nick Ski have 4 goals, 6 assists for a total of 10. Caulfield was a 9 point for the month with Alex Newhook. Alex Newhook have 4 goals, 5 assists. So in the month November. And Kovacevic was another one with 4 goals. It was the highest number of the goal during the month. Zuski Caulfield. And Zuski is 3-6, 3-6 Zuski Caulfield this month. So I just want to share with you about that one over there. Montreal Canadiens lost now Alex Newhook for 10 to 12 weeks. I would like to hear what the impact of the missing now Alex Newhook. What's next for the Montreal Canadiens? Do you think they're going to call up its front players of the sent back down Mitchell 7. Are you agree with the modification what Martin would bring a money on the top 6 and all the, go around that injury first of all, and let's move on after that with Montembeau extension. Marco, start. I think you're not top started last time. I'm sorry about that.
No problem. Before we hit on this, Coach, so you're saying that Montreal's 22nd, 6th in the Atlantic, but don't forget Ottawa has like a whole bunch of games in hand, so that's a little bit misleading. So that's one thing to consider too. But yeah, the new hook injury, definitely it's frustrating, right? Because I think he was really coming on, really starting to play well. You really using his speed and finding a little bit of that finishing touch. So really bad timing there. Nothing you can blame on the medical staff fans. Like this is just a purely random, it's a concerning injury to high ankle sprains, or some would say it's even better if you break your ankle. Like high ankle sprains can be really hard to heal from. So it's going to be a long return for Newhook. Like high ankle sprains can last a long time to heal from. So it's going to be a big impact for sure. He brings something different that a lot of other players have, which is speed. We're really going to miss that speed in the lineup. So maybe that's something that Montreal will look at in terms of who they're going to call up. Is maybe they're going to want to infuse some speed. So we'll see who they call up. I don't think that they're going to be moving any of the young players. I agree. Like
And
maybe a
man, 1 goal,
Heineman,
1 assist.
yeah, in his first game. It's really too bad that Gignac doesn't have a two-way contract, because I think he'd be a great guy to bring up. Like with all the contracts they have, like it's frustrating that one of the players that could be the most useful in their lineup right now, they're not able to bring up for some reason. So he would be a really good. He's a good spark plug, and I've always been really impressed when he plays. But I think a solution here, guys, like I understand why they did what they did. Like it was an interesting experiment. Everybody was curious to see kind of what Monahan would bring playing with Suzuki and Caulfield. But like I said, I was really liking the experiment of having Caulfield away from Suzuki. I feel Caulfield's getting a lot of great touches. So usually what you see a coach do, instead of, if you have one guy that goes down, you don't completely disassemble your lines just to factor in for one guy, right? Like I find that Saint Louis sometimes, remember, like we've criticized him sometimes like not doing in-game adjustments, but sometimes I feel like it's really just like he's just really changing things sometimes for no reason. Like
Michel
remember,
Terrien,
like,
people don't like him, but one thing was really good, Marco.
very good.
After
Yeah,
first 10 minutes of the game, he was not really
yeah,
care. If you don't roll this, if you don't play
yeah,
hard, burn down.
yeah.
Nobody.
100%. Like I agree. We've talked about that before. I like somebody that can do good bench management like that, right? But sometimes I find Saint Louis game to game will change lines for no reason. Like, remember, he only played Slavkovsky with Suzuki and Caulfield for one game. I thought they had a good game, and then he never went back to it for no reason whatsoever. He separated, Caulfield, Caulfield, Dvorak, and Slavkovsky. Like, why did they separate those guys? So really, okay, you're missing Newhick on the top line. Why not just throw Yolonen up there instead? You're replacing speed with speed. I don't understand why you're completely breaking up your whole lineup just because you have one player that
Yeah.
is down.
He
So
see he
I don't
seems
understand.
very hesitant to put the youth up in the top
Yeah,
lines for whatever
yeah.
reason, whether it's protection, I don't know. But I mean, that's, you got to allow them to make mistakes, and you never know what the benefits from doing that are unless you try it.
Yolonen
Like it,
doesn't make a lot of mistakes, right? Like I don't know what they
right?
don't trust him. He's a pretty responsible player.
Both ways, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no question about it. New Hook being out 10 to 12 weeks is going to hurt. The injuries collectively are going to hurt. I mean, we can ill afford to have one or two players in the top six out. You don't need the number of injuries that we have right now. So, unfortunately, while I agree that he should be a little bit better in the line management, I can understand how it's challenging because it's almost from game to game you're experiencing some kind of injury, and it's not like somebody can come up from Laval and solve the problem. But you have to be able to manage whatever you have a little bit better, It's going to be a rough ride down the road here, because if he doesn't get that solidified, you never develop the chemistry that the line so desperately is seeking in order to be productive.
But you do want a little bit of stability, right? Like, so again,
Yeah,
it's
that's
one.
my
So
point.
yeah, you want stability, but like we were saying, like we want him to be able to read and react in game, right? So if it's not working, so I like his third period. I like that he said it. He's like, okay, you know what? It didn't work. The line combinations they came up with for this game, they weren't working at all. I don't know what's going on with Monahan. It's clear that I hope that it's just because he's banged up or something like that, but he has just not been the same for at least like 10 games at least. He just hasn't really played that well at all. So,
It's been surrounded
guys,
by
like,
Anderson.
yeah,
That's the
but
problem.
even before that, when he was still with Pearson and Gallagher, like his play had kind of like dipped quite a bit over the
Yeah, but
last maybe.
in all fairness, we were saying you need a player to start producing on your team. Pair him up with Monahan, and that's exactly what he was doing for quite a while. Now, I agree, if there's some kind of injury that we're not aware of, that's a different story. But it seems like ever since he was put together with Monahan or with Anderson, his production has gone south as well.
Even before that, like here's another interesting thing, guys. I don't know if you're concerned about this, but at some point, like Saint Louis, like so we talked about maybe he's a little bit, he favors veterans a little bit, but at some point though, are you concerned that he's going to maybe lose credibility with some of the young players, because it has to go by merit to a certain extent, right? Like he kept Anderson on that first unit power play probably for 10 games
Too
longer than he
long.
should have. Way too long.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you're a young player and you see Monahan go to the first line, yes, Monahan had a good strong start to the season, but again, he's had a really tough last 10 games. At some point, St. Louis is going to have to start rewarding players based on merit, right? Like, so because you want to create a culture where things are just given to you, right? And that goes for veterans as well, right? Like it's one thing, you want to position veterans, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, give them every opportunity to succeed, but at some point you don't want to create a culture where it's you're just going to get your minutes because of your status on the team. And that's why, like, again, I'm perplexed by what's happening with Slavkovsky. I understand there's some management going on there. They don't want to give him too much, to like, more than he can bite off, what he can chew. But like Ylonen, like I said, like he's screaming for that kind of opportunity. Like his performance definitely merits an opportunity like that. Rather than changing the whole lineup around when Newhook went down, why don't you just drop him in? Then you don't have to change anything else when everything else was working pretty decently. I just don't understand that.
Would you Would you guys keep Monahan on the wing right now, or would you put him at center? Because I think
I
right
put him
now we're
back.
sort of weak at center.
Yeah, I put him back at center, exactly where he was.
Yeah.
Like to me, like, I don't hate the idea of like putting players together that are kind of struggling together, because you kind of get them to work that shit out together. So I would put Anderson and Monahan together, and maybe you put Pearson there, or somebody else. It doesn't really matter. But I would elevate Ylonen on the first line with Suzuki, and maybe try that for a little bit. And then I would go right back to Dvorak with Caulfield and Slavkovsky. I really like that. And then for the
Yeah.
third line, you go back to Monahan. Maybe I think you have Gallagher, Suzuki, and Ylonen as a first line. Try that maybe. You get some good speed. Ylonen has a good one timer. He has a good shot. Gallagher gives you that net presence and some battle along the boards. Second line, we've seen it works. They have really good possession. Slavkovsky is coming around. That third line, let them work out their issues, you know, um, and that's kind of what I would do for now, anyways.
Great point about that. A lot of people talk about this. It's funny. I don't going to talk about line for myself because it's going to be another subject another time. I want to talk about Martin Saint Louis. Soft
Okay.
decision, power play, OT, and line. We just talked about fun conversations during that part there. But what do you feel about Martin Saint Louis is soft? When I talk the word soft is about decision. Um, I think he's scared to make adjustments during the game. He did it last game. I understand that. But it take time for him. He look like he's bad head. Yeah, like he doesn't want to change his ID. He got there. Secondly, for me, he protect too much the veterans. He doesn't want to hurt the veterans about that. It's not because I don't know he play in NHL. He learned from that and he feel like because for me, he does not give any chance to Strubble, don't give any chance for Ireland. He don't give any chance for Sarkozy, or he don't give any chance for the player to have a good game. And then they stuck with his plan at the beginning of the game. Is that for me, this is really where I feel like he's not there yet, or he does not want to change that part there. This decision to keep Anderson night after night on the power play, for me, is a problem. And then he never used Sarkozy on overtime. If only he did the last game before that. And back to overtime, a lot of people was questionable to use Christian Dvorak to start the period of the overtime against the Detroit Red Wings. And the line, of course, we just talked about this. So a lot of conversation you can use about Martin St. Louis. It just continues the way. And at the end of the show, 90% said that we are negative. When they get there, we talk about what's going on around the Montreal Canadiens at the end.
No,
Have a
not at
great
all.
have a great outro about the show tonight. But until then, we have to go through those kind of conversations. So, um, who want to talk about Martin Saint Louis?
I
Well,
think it's
Coach, I
Enortap.
sent you a yeah, I sent you a text not too long ago saying I'm getting to the point where, and I know it's a growing process and a learning process and developing process for Martin St. Louis as well. He's done a lot of good things. I do believe that. But at this stage, I'm starting to think, is he a better teacher than he is a coach? And I think he's making great headway with a lot of the younger kids, even though he isn't, as we just finished saying, he isn't giving them the time that they need. But at least you start to see some improvement in their play, and they're doing a lot of the little things right. But when it comes to the adjustment of the game while it's in real time, is he learning from that yet? And right now, I'm not seeing it, to be totally honest. I know it's probably not a popular answer, but that's
No.
just my observation.
You know what's really telling, Intertop? I think I've brought this up before, but he said this again last night. And I always wince when he says this. So I think I forget exactly which player it was. I think it was like, did you like X player's game today or whatever? Did you like Monahan? I think it was maybe Monahan. Did you like how Monahan looked on the first line with Suzuki and Caulfield? And then the answer that he gives is, I don't know. I have to watch the game.
Yeah.
Well, I just like I get that it's from
Well,
behind the bench. I get it. It goes fast. You're managing the bench and everything else. But
plus he is
guys, like,
short, Marco. So
yeah, I don't. That's an easy one. That's a cheap shot. But so
sorry.
to me, to me, that means is that sometimes maybe he's not catching everything in the game, is like,
Yeah.
I don't, it could be that he's answering that just because it's an easy way for him to kind of duck an answer and to maybe not say something negative about a player. That's quite possible. But find a better answer than that, Marty. It's not a good look to say I need to watch the game, because it sounds like as though you weren't able to grasp everything that was happening in the game. Just, it's a pet peeve when I hear him say that. But I agree, guys. Like,
It's a cop
that
out.
was,
It's a cop out.
yeah, it's a cop out, or it's an admission that he's not able to catch on to everything as it's happening live, which would be a real concern if that's the case, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's being honest there. Like, before I make an assessment on whether my decision tactically was good, I need to watch it again. Like, maybe you watch it again to confirm, but even as a fan watching the game, like, it's pretty straightforward to see whether something was working or not, right?
I think
Yeah.
he
As
wants to
a
give the right answer. He doesn't want to say something he does not remember all the way. Uh, when you are behind the bench, guys, coaching is fast. And NHL should
I
be fast. It was already fast
It
for
is.
me, junior. So you have, because every time you coach, you anticipate. And this is the biggest problem as a coach. You have to anticipate what's next, and you have to be ready for any any occasion happening on the ice. Could be a power play, a PK, a player going to the box. You expect him to get out, everything like that. That's why we have some help around him. I don't want to make an excuse about that, Marco, but he's so honest with people. That's what he
Yeah,
tried to
yeah.
be. He does maybe not try to give something where he would be wrong about that. So he wanted to be sure. And honestly, Marco, when he said that, he come back the next day. If you ask him the same question, he would tell you a little bit more what happening.
All
Yeah,
right, fair enough.
he's very transparent that way, coach. You're absolutely right. He's very cerebral about his answers. He doesn't just blurt out, the party line about something. I just wish sometimes the media, in a good way, would just poke a little bit more in terms of what his thought process behind certain
Then
decisions
you,
were. I
then you get
I
that
think they
Maurice
give him,
Richard, you get that Maurice Richard angry stare if you push him too much, right? He's a
yeah,
pretty
of course,
intimidating guy. He's a pretty intimidating guy. But I think coach
yeah,
overall for some of the decisions, like I said, like when it comes to in game decisions, sometimes we feel he's a bit slow to react. But then sometimes I feel that he's not patient enough with some other things, like with the line combinations, right? Like you have an experiment, like give it a couple days at least to, especially if it looks like it's working. Like it seems like he sticks with things that aren't working way longer than
yeah.
he should, and then he moves away from things that have a little bit of progress or have a little bit of potential, right? So maybe it has something to do with the fact that there's dynamics within the team, like I said, like veteran versus rookies, and trying to manage that whole dynamic there for sure. The thing with Dvorak, a lot of teams do that. They'll send their best playoff or their best face-off guy to start the overtime, and then they come right off once they win or lose the face-off. So I don't know who had the best face-off percentage going into the overtime
I
yesterday.
think
Like,
he did.
There you go. Can I
yeah,
open the
Oh,
door,
yeah,
Marco?
yeah,
All right. So
he did.
that game, 76 points, Devorek, 71 Zuski.
mm,
So
okay,
for
Yeah,
me, I understand the move, but because Zuski have a good night, like Monahan have 22% that night. I will not start with Monahan example. That's fun to use, not use Zuski versus Devorek for me was not good enough to give an example about that. And then I look about opponent. Zuki was a winner versus the center for the Detroit Red Wings. The software gave me that information too. So at the night, I think that one was not good. But I can understand his point of view to retrieve the puck and then great with the VAR. How many times Montreal? Remember, like sometime like there was used Dano. Everybody was saying upset about Dano on the face at the beginning over who? Do you remember who he was over who? I was not remember who.
Suzuki instead of Suzuki. Yeah,
So
is when
this is
Suzuki
a
was still there.
point of view about that. It was just the beginning. It's happened with our team. Calgary did it. Backlum over Langholm. It's just a
Toronto,
strategy.
Toronto fans debate this. They have camp that comes on to take face-offs,
it,
like,
it
and
just looked bad
typically
because they never touched the puck and they score. How many times happened in the history in Montreal Canadiens? Another time in Montreal never touched the puck. It's rare. So I don't feel um, this is not as this bad. I don't worry about that. I was more worried about 5 versus 3 at the face off at that one over there. But my only concern was that if you look about this is where you need to be better. Where so you know what? I go with Ski because his percentage tonight was pretty good. Some help, somewhere. I don't know how he can get it, but that would be a point of view about that. Sorry to cut you about this. I will just give you the information.
yeah.
no,
And
no,
sometimes
that's a
sometimes it's also kind of like a bit of a
Feeling.
confidence. It's a feeling, yeah, it's a gut feeling that you have that you do that. But sometimes, like when it's Suzuki's your number one center, it's a little bit of mojo, right? Like you send him, even let's say he wasn't having a great night on faceoffs. Sometimes you just do it because you want to give him that confidence, like, you know what, you're our guy, you're our go-to guy. Sometimes there's maybe that kind of component to it as well, but overall, like Montreal's performed pretty well in OT this year, to be honest, so far. So I wouldn't say it was like like some type of pattern that I'm concerned about with overtime, but definitely with the power play for sure. It's I think it was like 24 occasions before that Suzuki goal that they hadn't scored. All the specialty teams, right? Like the PK was just really, really bad. There's that play, the DeBrincat goal, I think, was very avoidable. They didn't have the right stick in the lane for that power play goal. So a lot of like tactical things, coach. And like I said, I've been very critical about the man-on-man coverage for St. Louis. So I think it's a very fair observation, Enortap. Like I think that was a couple people have been questioning that. Like, is St. Louis going to be more of a teacher than a coach? But there's certain people that feel he's doing very well. Like I think Craig Button last week, said that he thinks St. Louis one day might be one of the best coaches in the NHL. Now, again, some people like Craig Button, some people don't, but pretty credible hockey guy. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Like he definitely has a lot to learn, but he's a
It takes
student
time
of the
to
game.
get to that position.
There's
Like
one
we
thing.
can't expect somebody that doesn't have any experience to come
Yeah.
into this position just because of his pedigree as a hockey player, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
know all the right off the bat. So,
Ouais, un new subscriber. Thanks so much. Caddy Lévesque. Merci beaucoup.
welcome,
Thank you,
Katie.
Katie. Thanks, Katie. Welcome to the show. So what I would look like, and this is why they hired St. Louis, is you're looking for somebody who is a student of the game, somebody who's not afraid to learn and not afraid to
Yeah.
admit when he's wrong. So St. Louis has all the characteristics of somebody who can do it, but I think certainly he does still have a lot to learn for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. A lot of people in the chat are talking about now. Guy Carbono is funny. It's a real wine night in the chat. I love it. Anyhow,
Just
we
tonight.
talk about this guy. We're not going to go deep about this because we talked a bit earlier about UFA goaltender. I think UFA will be another subject for locker room this week. A really interesting stat, guys. Whip, Madison, Barron, Kovacevic, Coley, Jekai, Lindstrom, and Arisa. Montreal Canadiens scored 20 goals this year, and they are number one team in NHL with most goals. We all complaining about St. Louis does not coach, but someone is good coaching because he's on number one on the goaltender of the goal for the defenseman. It's really interesting to see that. Any comments about that, Mark Enortap first?
No, to me, it's not a surprise. I mean, you see the improvement in the players there. It's one of those things. Like last year, we threw into service 5 rookie defensemen, and we're building on that, and we're going to have more coming in. Like when you look at maybe Struble staying or coming down the road, and then you have Ryan Bacher, you got Hudson coming in. Like this is all going to add to this. I still believe, and I said this at the beginning. On paper, you're going to see that Montreal is going to have one of the more formidable core of defensemen in the league when they're fully here and playing on a steady basis. And we're starting to see that develop towards that. So I'm not surprised, and it's a good sign.
Yeah, not much to add there, Coach. I know we're running behind, but yeah, it's really good performance there. You just have some good individual, bit of a lucky streak from Kovacevic. Like, let's not go nuts and think that Kovacevic is going to keep up this pace. But Matheson, I think he's there was a stat that came out. He's like number 4th all time, the fastest to get to 50 points or something like that as a defenseman in Canadiens history or something. So Matheson is racking up the points, sometimes at the detriment of his defensive play. Barron is really and just as a good note, like in Hughes's press conference, that was the one player that he actually gave as an example as the player that progressed. That was a really good example of progression this year. He actually named Barron, which is rare for a GM to actually name players. So if you're Justin Barron, you must have been pretty excited to hear the general manager call out your name like that. So you're having some good individual performances, but certainly the system itself that Montreal plays, they are a pretty active team on the rush. So their system does kind of cater well to those kinds of plays as well.
Great point. I would say to you, they are really good on offensive zone. Like they join, they are not like a team carrying the puck a lot, right? It's not a team like move the puck all the way to an offensive zone, right? But when they are in the zone, they pinch well. usually, and they see the old a lot. And you have to give credit for that part. I think this is an area really they are good about that. Another good point for Patrick Leblanc said, we all complain about Martin St. Louis, and we almost play for 500.
Yeah, but so we are last in the NHL though in regulation wins. Only 4 regulation wins, and a lot of the numbers would indicate that Montreal is
We have
still a
good
bottom.
company though, Marco.
Yeah, much. I
We
think
have
the
good
Leafs
company
have.
with some other top teams there. Yeah.
Yeah, the Leafs have I think 5. I think they're in second last place. Yeah.
So on the
Yeah.
flip side, at 5 versus 5, they are 9 in the NHL with the not give a goal against. They are 9 in NHL, but it's because the performance of the goaltender make the difference for 5 versus 5.
Yeah,
Montembeau, I think, is at
number one.
93.7, 937, and Allen is at 91.6, I believe he was. So the what I was trying to
It's
say
just
to you guys is like the outcome where we at does not represent exactly
no,
how we play at the end of the
no,
night. Uh,
it doesn't.
so that's for
No,
me
no.
at the end of the year, everything catch up, everything normal, right? The team go
Yeah,
get, So for me, this is the reason I consider they're going to be at the bottom 7 at least. Other team like Buffalo and Ottawa are going to struggle more. What we expect about that, and that was not reflect the reality behind the Montreal Canadiens, who they are. At the end of the day, I want to express this right away here because I think I don't want to wait at the end. We are a rebuilding team, equal time, patience, development, progression, improvement. That's simple. If you go with that way, if your expectation as the fans are there, you'll be happy about Montreal Canadiens. And we're just talking about this fun subject where what's going on with the Montreal Canadiens during the week or during the last couple of weeks, everything like that about this it's fun decision. But we understand for me, nothing changed. I'm happy about what they are. At the end of the day, we just talk about
Yeah,
subject
absolutely.
continents. We don't talk to put them negative or to put them out of the
well,
map. For
coach,
me,
can I
my
correct one
realistic
thing though?
about the
Just
team is exactly my expectation so far.
yeah.
A little bit better.
So can I add one thing though to that, coach? Is
Yeah.
so we could end up not being happy, but we would be the reason I wouldn't be happy is because they didn't progress in tangible ways. Like individual players didn't
Yeah.
progress, or they
Development.
didn't play. So it's not a guarantee that we will be happy of like, but it's being unhappy for the right reasons, if that makes sense. Like if you're going to be unhappy because they're not winning games, or Suzuki doesn't score 80 points, or Caulfield doesn't score 40 goals, those are very superficial things to get angry about. And it's not realistic to focus on those things. Now, hopefully, we'll be happy because we'll see Slavkovsky continue to improve. The 5 on plate, like their defensive coverage will improve. They'll be
Power play,
consistent
penalty
longer.
kill.
Power plays will be better. PK will be better. They'll be more consistent at certain times of the year, but they'll just lose and because of lack of finish or things like that, right? So we may not be happy with the results. We're hoping we're going to be happy with the progression that they make. Now, we may end up not
Yeah.
being happy, but that's a whole
Yeah.
other
You
conversation.
you can
Yeah.
finish lower than you did last year and have had a better year.
Yeah. Like I was just saying, like the game against Detroit, we lost 4-3 in overtime. But I think they played better when they lost 5-1 in Florida. That's how misleading results actually are.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
of
if you look
course.
at
Of
the
course.
Detroit, I look at them yesterday. I studied them. I look about they are what the playoff right now, but they are not a great team overall. And sorry,
No,
KLS is
there's
going to
holes.
be disagree with me about that for sure.
They
But
didn't
if you
No,
play
look
there's
good games
about
holes
the
in
last
their
team,
game.
it's not
There's
like a
holes in their game.
great team uh, uh, overall. I understand what they accomplished. I don't want to say that, but when you look about, if you compare them like the Rangers, you compare them to the Kings, the team beat the Montreal Canadiens the last couple of games. This is a game where Montreal are not behind from far to be behind Detroit. That's my point. That's maybe the best way to say that.
No. But it was very interesting. I watched Lalonde had an interview with Hockey Night in Canada before the game on Saturday. And it was very similar to kind of what we're talking about. He was very open with kind of where, because they were talking about the Yzerman plan. How did he feel with, Yzerman, with the additions that he made to help him and everything else? He's like, listen, we're a very different team. We're not like some of the other teams in the Atlantic Division. We don't have elite talent. We weren't lucky enough to draft elite talent in the drafts over the last couple of years. So the way that we've built our team is more balanced. Our plan is to have 4 balanced lines and come to you and attack and da da da. So he's very honest, and so that's kind of the example I was telling you guys earlier, right? Like there's different ways to build teams, and sometimes an average team can have success if they all play together and play the same way. Now, Detroit didn't play their best game against Montreal, but I've watched a lot of their other games, and there are some nights where they're clicking and they do play very well as a team. And when they do that, they're a tough team to beat because they're all playing together, right? Same thing with Montreal. When Montreal, like it's the standard that we talked about, and that's where I was talking about 80-20 earlier in the show. We've seen the standard that Montreal can play when everybody is pulling on the rope in the same direction and they're playing as a team. They're a very hard team to beat. They could potentially beat any team in the league. And Detroit is kind of the same way. They've just been more consistent with their ability to execute and put everything together for a full 60 minutes much more regularly than Montreal has so far this year. That's the big difference.
Great point about that for sure. And we'll see what happening the next couple of weeks for the Montreal Canadiens. We have a lot of contents to talk about, so let's move on if you don't mind talking. We have only 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So Laval Rocket, not looking good.
Ouch.
Not looking good. Tobes maybe go to East Coast Hockey League. Enneman was a great point about that one. And then Enneman, 1 goal, 1 assist for the Laval Rocket. That's a good one. But they lost again this weekend again Abbotsford. And they're going to be back again Belleville. Really difficult year overall for the Montreal Laval, for the Laval Rocket. The ad prospect, ladies and gentlemen, they're looking good at some point. Lane Hudson, 4 assists. Quindon, 2 goals. Mézard, 2 points. Pitlick, 4 points. Rimbacker, 1 assist. He only game he played yesterday.
The other day.
He was sick Saturday. And this is a goal of 15 goals a year for Cédric Guindon, guys. Nobody talk about Cédric Guindon with the Montreal Canadiens. No one. This is Pitlick, guys. The speed of Pitlick, guys. Number 37 scored a goal on the short and dud. Pitlick, a 5th round pick at 138, I believe, by the Montreal Canadiens. Have a great year. Have 12 points the last 7 games for him. This is, again, a one-timer shot of Philippe Mézard for the Kitchener Rangers. Still 2 points. Struggle, but not struggle. Go a little bit down, but overall. Lane Hudson, guys, that's the reason you love Lane Hudson. An assist on that goal for Lane Hudson for the Boston University. Boston University won. And Hudson have 4 points on the weekend for that one. So I just want to share a little bit the prospect for the Montreal Canadiens. What happening? They are maybe the best one. Other prospect, Fuller have a good game. Gave 1 goal only during the weekend. Fuller have a great year in NCAA. He was the player of the month, goaltender last week, by the way. So get a bit more information about that prospect, about this. And then before we go on the next subject, guys, anything you want to add for the prospect, both of you, if you want to add one specific players?
No, just really happy to see Machar. It's good. It was the right decision to send him down. Having a really, arguably one of the hottest players in the OHL right now.
Yeah, it's all about consistencies. We want to see and continue to see these guys performing on a long-term range, and so far they haven't been disappointing. But yeah, let's keep it all in proper perspective. I think at the end of the day, we saw Roy get off to a really hot start, and he's kind of cooled off a bit right now. So it all has to be tapered expectations, I believe. But good start.
I just want to answer that one over there. Mark, he said he want Anthony Duclair with the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah.
Not really.
I don't see that. I will not see about. I don't expect that. A lot of people talk about this. Before we go to NHL team, last question: who will be the player the most improvement for Montreal Canadiens? You have no choice. Only one. Only
Justin
Who will
one.
be
Barron.
the most
Which
improved?
player is the most improvement, or you maybe more surprised since the beginning of the season with the Montreal Canadiens? My question the poll today is the most disappointment, but tomorrow will be the most surprise. So, but the most surprise, what would be your players since the beginning of the season?
For me, it'd be Justin Barron,
I
I think.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I don't think it was much. It was expected, and he's really come a long way, and hopefully he can continue to do that.
Baron for Lip Lafortune said Baron about him, about that. I think we are agree with Baron is one of them for sure. You can give a bit Sakaski a couple of improvement on that. Kenan Coley is another one. After he started a little bit slow, I don't know if you remember at the beginning of the season, he started very slow at the training
Yeah,
camp. He have a difficult time. That he pick it up very easy about that. They are the close. Patrick Leblanc go with Kovacevic for Habs Nation and Patrick Leblanc. That's
that's
a
a good
bad
one too.
choice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like only thing with Kovacevic, like his defensive play kind of trailed off for about 4 or 5 games. So he needs to find a better balance there for sure. Randy.
That's why I'm laughing about that one over there.
Yeah.
Randy always the right words about that, guys. Well,
Oh,
before we go
Randy.
the preview of the weeks, guys, the prediction of the preview of the weeks, guys, we're going to move on to the NHL news for that one. And I have something for you guys. I want to talk about Sven team. We'll be briefly for 5 minutes before we do the prediction of that. We have three teams at the bottom of our screen. You can talk about one specific team. You can talk about two specific teams. You can go all over you want to talk about this. But my question to you guys, they are going to be on the playoff or not? They have a chance to come back, or what will happen with that? Fire the coach, bring trade, make a trade. I don't know. I give you a 5 minute talking about three team and the Eastern Conference, and three team and the Western Conference. Devils, Buffalo Sabres lost again tonight, and the Ottawa Senator won yesterday against the Kraken 2-0.
Well, the way I look at it right now is from the from the other perspective, and that's of the current teams in the East that are in a playoff spot, including a wild card, which ones could possibly fall off the map? Because then that would help you answer which of these three, if any, will get into the playoffs. So the only when I look at it, the only two possibilities really would be, in my eyes, would be Washington, maybe the Islanders. Detroit is still
They
iffy
are
with me.
already
I'm
in,
not.
right? So you said,
Yeah, but that's my point. Like
okay,
you
okay,
have to look at
okay,
it
I
from the
got it. I'm sorry.
perspective of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which ones you think are for sure shoe-ins, and if there's open positions, which of these three right here would jump in. Now the only thing with Ottawa is they do have a lot of games in hand, and that may hurt them down the road because they're gonna be playing a lot of back to backs, 3 and 4 nights, and sometimes that doesn't bode well. Like you don't tend to win usually too many of the back to back. There's a lot of splits there. For me, I think I gotta believe New Jersey will find a way to get in there. I believe they have a lot of talent, and I think they'll make maybe some moves because they can afford to do it. They'll make some moves to address either their goaltending situation or the fact that now Hamilton is looks like he's out for a while. That's gonna hurt him from the defensive point, or at least the offensive defensive point of view. So they might address one or both of those areas, and so I got to believe New Jersey will be in. The other two teams, you know, I don't know. I really expected a lot more out of Ottawa, and I thought, this year they got off to a little bit better start than the previous 2 years, but they seem to, put foot forward and then two back. It's perplexing to me. With Buffalo, sometimes it might be just one of those situations where you need to step back a year before you can move forward. And to answer the question, I think only one of those teams, and that's New Jersey, will get into the playoffs.
So very quickly here, so New Jersey is only 3 points out of the playoffs right now. They have Washington has one less game played, so they're right there. Like, I think they're within striking distance. Definitely, they're going through something right now, but just too much talent on that roster for them to not figure it out. With Ottawa, so very quickly with Buffalo, I think, they're just spinning their wheels a little bit. Injury problems with Thompson not being there, so I don't see them being able to right the ship and make a run. But with Ottawa, guys, like, they have 4 games in hand on Detroit, and they're like 9 points out right now, right? So that's almost the balance of play right there. So if they make up those games and go on a bit of a run, then they're right there. Don't forget, Ottawa also had that thing where they went to Sweden. So did Detroit. But with everything that's been going on in Ottawa, maybe they just didn't need that distraction of going to Sweden and all that. So I think this next couple weeks is critical for Ottawa. So if I had to bet, I would say New Jersey gets in for sure, and I'd say my confidence level is a bit lower for Ottawa, but I did pick them, so I'll say that they make a run. Like, I do. I still don't believe in the Islanders that much. So I know they've been on a good run recently, but I just don't see the offense and enough speed in that lineup to stay that consistent. But so I'll say New Jersey 100% gets in. Ottawa, I'll say like maybe 75%. Get back to me in 2 weeks after they kind of play some of these games in hand.
All right, let's move on to the next one. No, Enortap, we're not going
Coaches.
to talk about them. No, not tonight.
Coach,
I know you want to talk about them. We're not going there. Here we go. 3 teams, Enortap, on that one over there. We're going to start with Marco on this one for the Western Conference. Edmonton Oilers, Calgary Flame, and Minnesota Wild. Again, I tried to get the team could make the playoff, right? I took 3 teams out of the playoff right now. That was the exercise of that one over there.
Yeah. So looking at out west here, so Edmonton right now, 19 points. St. Louis and Arizona 25 and 26. Pretty much. So Edmonton has 1 game in hand. So again, because of the quality of competition here, if you would have asked me, I think 2 weeks ago, I would have been really hard. But it looks like things have stabilized a little bit in Edmonton. So I was like a hard no on Edmonton being able to come back. But again, because of the quality of competition, at some point it was looking like you would only need about 90 points to make it into the playoffs in the Western Conference, right? So all the doors are open for Edmonton to make a bit of a miraculous comeback there. So just so much talent there. Looks like Skinner has kind of stabilized a little bit. Campbell looks like he might come back. He had 3 good games in the AHL. He has a new goalie whisperer, Manny Legacy. I guess they hired him to. That's somebody that he likes to work with. So we'll see if that works out. But so I say Edmonton kind of sneaks back in there. You have Arizona and St. Louis. St. Louis, I don't believe in at all. I just don't think that there's enough there on their decor. Like, they're slow. I don't really like their decor that much. Calgary's on a good run, but I'm a little hesitant to buy with Calgary because it looks like there's still a lot of moving pieces there. Not sure what Conroy is doing with that team. Like, it looks like they still might be looking to. It might be one of those things they've already made decisions to move on from some players. So I'm very, very hawkish on trying to commit to Calgary, but they have played a lot better. They've had some injection of some good young players like Azari and Pospisil come in and inject some energy into that lineup. That's really been helpful. And Markstrom's played a lot better than he did last year. So things looking up in Calgary, but I don't know if I'm a buyer because I don't know what Conroy's doing there. Minnesota, they have a bit of a new coach bump that's happening right now, but I don't buy into it at all. Just not enough depth there. Kaprizov is not having a really strong year. I'm not a big Hines fan either. So I honestly, so I'd say Edmonton comes in, and I'd say maybe St. Louis comes out, and I'm hoping Arizona makes it because I really like Arizona and I really like Tourigny. So that's kind of my take for the Western Conference as we speak.
Enortap.
I'll start with Minnesota, and I think that we almost expected this a lot earlier. I think that they're experiencing, some regression here. Their goaltending hasn't been really what it should be. Number one, number two, even though Kaprasov has about 20 points, he's almost averaging a point per game. That's not enough. They need more production out of what you would define an elite player. I think Eriksson Ek is having a great year. That's good to see. But when you look at the list and you say, okay, what has Hartman done this year? What has Boldy done this year? Even Foligno to a lesser degree. Like, these guys are not chipping in right now, and that makes it problematic for them to get themselves in a playoff position. With Calgary, I agree with Marco. I just don't know what direction they're taking. It looks like defensemen want out of there as quickly as possible, and they just got rid of one in Zadorov. I think Tanov has 1 foot out the door already. And this could be a big problem because you can't expect a rookie to come into play and defend there. They're lucky that Markstrom has really kept them in this race so far, and but I don't see them going there. The only team I see making it, and again, I would agree, they have the talent. It's the Edmonton Oilers, and I think with a couple tweaks on top of the fact that you got arguably the 2 best players in the league on your team, is going to make a huge difference. Hyman's having a great year as well. It looks like Kane has woken up a little bit and started to contribute. Bouchard's having a very good year, at least offensively. I know defensively he's been making some mistakes. But I think I got to believe that this is a team that will get everything together. And I know they have a lot of teams to jump over. I think that's more important than looking at how many points are they out of a playoff spot. Because you need to anticipate other teams going on some kind of losing streak that are in front of you at some point, and you continue to win, which is, a big ask. But if anybody can do it, I think it's the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah. One thing we don't talk tonight but you have to give credit for the Arizona Coyotes. They're
Absolutely.
22 points behind the Winnipeg Jets. They won their last 4 games. They're really impressive. They are the wild card right now. I don't know if they're going to make it, but talk about the team, surprisingly. The Kraken did it. I don't expect the Coyotes make 100 points, but a team can make some kind of problem for other team to try to make the playoff. That's a big. I think Coyotes could finish with maybe 85 points, a little bit more.
Yeah. And coach, there's one other. If we're talking around the NHL as a Habs channel, sometimes maybe it's fun to kind of look at former Habs and how they're doing in the league and everything. One really nice story is Noah Juleson. So hopefully people remember. Noah Juleson was a pretty high draft pick in Montreal. Had some really, really terrible luck. He took 2
Injuries.
shots. Yeah, 2 shots. I think he got like 2 pucks in the face, like within the span of like 1 game. And for a long time, he was battling really severe concussions, some really severe vision issues as well, and really touch and go for him as to whether he was going to even be able to play hockey at all. And it's kind of similar to like Jared Tenorti, right? Like you have these players that kind of just like disappear from the league for 2 to 3 years, play in the minors, and all of a sudden they get a chance with another team. And Noah Juleson playing some really good minutes for the Canucks right now, playing, not like, like top 4 minutes or anything, playing on a bottom pair, playing some really solid minutes. Rick Tocchet, you can see, really trusts him, playing him like on the PK, and just a good story to see a former Hab finally getting the opportunity to live out his dream and be healthy and play hockey again.
Talk about the dream. Just told Mark it's not a league for the dreamer. Anyhow, we have to finish the show, guys. We're a little bit over time, and I don't want to go a little bit like that way, but we're going to finish with the prediction of the week, guys, for the Montreal Canadiens. We know the winner last week, guys, with the record 1-1-1. Léon Renault, Andy Koivula, One Week Kings, Sebastian. He did it. Willie Snyder are the winner of the pre-show for Montreal Canadiens for week number 8. And this week, guys, Montreal Canadiens play 4 games. We don't have weekly recap this week. Next Sunday it's going to be Monday night. Montreal play Seattle Monday night. And take a note, the game starts 7:30. So she said, Coach, he's late. I'm not going to be late. It's 7:30. Now you know what's going on. Anyway, Kings Thursday night. And I don't know who is the bug. That's maybe the bug going on in Buffalo.
Buffalo. But they are bugs right now.
Saturday night, they play in Buffalo and they return a back-to-back game. Really strange schedule for Montreal during the weekend. Nashville at home against 7. So prediction of the week, guys. It's time to presume. And let's go with Marco, because Marco does not like to follow Enortap.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna go 2-2. Let's go 2-2 this week. We'll say I think they have a decent shot to compete against Seattle, and I think they have a shot against either Buffalo or Nashville. I think they could. I don't think they win 3 out of those 4, but I think they have and it's at home. Coach, you mentioned their home record. That's definitely something that they need to correct here. 1-5 at home. But that's not new from this year. Like over the last couple of years, they struggled at home and played better on the road. So very important home stretch for them to get some consistency. So I'll say 2-2.
I'm going to cheer for Buffalo. That bugged many people right now.
Do you want to change now, Marco?
Yeah, I thought it would be hard for them to beat Bug, but I'll still stick with 2-2.
Look, if I'm gonna preach being more optimistic, I'm gonna have to be more optimistic myself here. I'm gonna say they're gonna go 3-1. 3-1. I'm gonna go with.
They're gonna beat LA then?
I won't say which one.
Okay.
But 3-1. 3-1.
Patrick Levin go with 3-1 too, Monsieur.
Way to go, Patrick.
About that, Montreal would go 2-2 from Gary. Gary follow everything of that.
You think Monty will? Do you think Primo plays this week, or Monty plays more than one game?
Montembeault, he should play twice because the rotation is Montembeault next game, Primo and Allen. So Montembeault plays Seattle and Nashville.
Right.
Well, that's another prediction. Does everybody think that Primo will get a game this week?
He might. He might get that LA game. Throw him into the Wolves.
Yikes.
Why not?
About
if it doesn't get resolved before that. Right.
Yeah.
It's not easy when you have two look back to back, guys. So we have two look go. I would call him look go about that one over there.
The dreamer.
GSM go with 2-1-1. GSM 2. I'm confused Luke. To give you the best answer about that one over there. About that. I know you're not going to like my, but I know
he's gonna go 1-3. He's gonna go 1-3.
Ooh,
and 3. Roy did that.
Yeah.
I'm going with 0, 2, and 2.
Ooh,
that's bold.
Yikes.
But I just try to go, but everybody don't do it. So I can win next week. I'll be like a star of the show next week.
You're always the star of the show, Coach.
No, but I just tried to go around about something. Patrick at 0-4. I was thinking 0-3, but 1. But I will go with 0. I could be a 0-3-1. To have someone did it, I'll give me a better chance.
Coach, since we're in overtime, can we do another prediction real quick? Will Josh Anderson score this week?
That was one of my questions. The pool I would like, but I give him until the end of the year. But yeah, we can set up like just yes and no. Do you expect Josh Anderson score a goal this week? About that one over there, I can put this right here.
Remember the previous one we had, Coach? Do you remember the previous one we had? We said, which of these three Canadians that doesn't have a goal yet will end up being last? So I think Slavkovsky was one, and he's got it. So he's off the list. Anderson was the other, and who was the third?
RHP and Anderson, but RHP is injured, right?
Exactly.
So it looks like
we have a few people knock the door. We have Francois. Francois is with us. Francois Pitt, thanks to be with us tonight. Don't forget, guys, click on the likes. Francois go with 1 and 3. So let me finishing, if you don't mind, minute. No, I lose my.
Yeah, you calculate. Enortap, do you think Anderson's going to score a goal this week?
I'm going to say yes. I got to believe he's got to get this monkey off his back at some point, and why not? I'm not saying it's an easier part of the schedule, because it's not. Every game is tough, but it's more doable. 3 of the games are at home, so
I'm looking at the goaltending, right? So 2 out of those 4 teams don't have top end goaltending, Seattle and Buffalo. So I'd say if there's a stretch of 4 games where he could do it, this is a good stretch for him. So I'll say yes. Anderson scores this week.
And if they're winning if we're winning by a goal in any of these games and the team pulls their goalie, I'd put Anderson out there just to get him that goal.
Yeah.
Look at Fortune say I'm more chance to get hurt.
Maybe.
I'm not going to go with all the answer, guys, but we said that most of the people expect him to score a goal this week. Some predict 2 goals, 1 assist. One said Mark a hat trick for him. And then Luc Lafortune predict about that one over there. So will be interesting what happening with the Montreal Canadiens. And that's conclude the show of the weekly recap. What a great show. Like a roller coaster. We go all the way with some hope. We go down with some many negative. But we finish the show with some hope. That's the most important thing. Most important thing, we know something, guys, is we are rebuilding and Montreal, and that's what we enjoy the most, is talking about the Montreal Canadiens, and good or and bad. We pass the time to be all together, to be a family, and that's the most important thing. That's the reason we do the Habs Nation, all the Sunday Sunday night. We have a locker room this week, Wednesday night. I invite everybody to join us, possibly in Enortap and Marco. Put a bit more fun ways. We go about what could Montreal can do at the trade deadline, and maybe UFA next year. What will be the next for the Montreal Canadiens? But before we did, we want to invite everybody. Remember that you are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you. You have greatness inside of you, Mr. Enortap and Mr. Marco Larabie. Thanks so much to be my co-host tonight. Without you, the show would be impossible. It would not be the way he does every night. All the moderator, Danny the captain, knocked the door tonight. Luciano Grisio was around. 1 week Kings with his King are winning again tonight against Extravaganza for the score 4-1. The Kings are looking great. Mr. Ron, you should be proud of your team, Talbot. Another W for him. I know I'm going to be last my first W, my first game in the fantasy because I did not put my starting lineup twice this week. Difficulties. Anyhow, no excuse. I lost my game. Anyway, want to thank everybody in the chat to click on the likes, of course. And finishing, guys, yes or no? Agree or disagree? Andrew Dawson removed his Montreal Canadiens caps for the Chicago Blackhawks. For the Chicago Cubs. By the way, I did not take a picture, guys. I'm upset about that. I was on the motorbike and I could not take my phone. When I sent for me, a motorbike driver Ty wearing the Montreal Canadiens shirt, ladies and gentlemen, and Pattaya. First time I did that. I wish I could take a picture of that one over there. I was too late about this, but it was my first time. I saw Chicago Blackhawks yesterday and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And Luan Go, I see Vancouver Canucks, by the way. So a lot of action around the Montreal Canadiens tonight this week. 4 games. Don't forget to come back with all the live play-by-play. Until the next time, guys, be well, be healthy. Finally, not only dominate your day, but finally the dominate the second half. For what, ladies and gentlemen?
You're 20. 23.
We did it again. An amazing, great week, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, people, we love you, each of you. Have an amazing, great week, everybody. Thanks so much.
Good night, everyone.
Come here. Oh. Booyah!